Welcome back to Exploring the Lord of the Rings. This is session number 333, and tonight, with great excitement, we're going to return to the Book of Mazarbul, that is, to the illustrated Book of Mazarbul, Tolkien's fully illustrated and less expurgated version of the Book of Mazarbul, to continue both our discovery of what the fuller text that Tolkien later wrote for the Book of Mazarbul contains, including some things that Gandalf either couldn't read, very understandably, due to the peculiar limitations in which he was leafing through this old book very quickly in the dark, or which Gandalf omitted. And at the same time, while we continue that discovery, also continue me learning Cirth and us discovering how to read and translate the Cirth together. So anyway, that's going to be great fun. Can't wait to get into that. Two things first that I want to announce. First, as always, I want to tell you about our upcoming moot. We have Willammoot coming not this weekend, but next weekend. We are beginning to approach. We're about a week and a half out from Willammoot in Leuven, Belgium. Looking forward to getting together with folks in Europe again. That will be, as I say, in about a week and a half on the 26th of April. And the next Signum regional moot after that will be the, Mountain Moot out in Denver on the 29th of May. Those are our upcoming moots. The other thing I wanted to announce for you is the beginning, the rebirth of a new podcast feed, not by me. One of the things that people have said to me for a long time is, Signum produces a lot of wonderful content. Things to explore, but so much of it is you. And I've heard lots of people over the years tell me with marvelous politeness that no offense to me and everything, but it would be really fun to hear from other folks also. And I'm like, yeah, totally agree. And in fact, there are ways to hear to get lots of stuff from people who are not me, or people in addition to me, through Signum channels, but I think a lot of people don't really know about them well enough yet. So here is one new way, and I wanted to share. This is a little preview bit that I want to play to tell you guys about a little new thing that is happening here.
I'm Christopher Bartlett.
Hang on, yeah, that's Christopher Bartlett, but he's not at the beginning. Here it comes. Get the full effect here.
Hello there, and welcome to the Story Web on the Signum Scene podcast from Signum University. I'm Christopher Bartlett, the mad violinist, and I am also the fiction submission coordinator in the Signum University Collaboratory. If you don't know what that is, all shall be made plain in future episodes. For now, let's say it means that I get to read lots of really great fiction that I'd love to share with you. To that end, I'll be interviewing authors of fiction and academic works that appear in the Collaboratory or in the Signum store. We'll talk about the works themselves and what went into creating them. The interviews will appear here every couple of weeks. I'll also highlight any new works that have been added to the Collaboratory since the last episode. I want to share our excitement about what creators are making in the Collaboratory. Stay tuned, or at least subscribed, to learn more.
All right. So there you go. I hope that you guys will all check out the Signum Scene. It's going to be a really fun set of interviews and discussions, and some really interesting behind the scenes for some of the fantastic new content that is being produced, and stories that are developing, and all kinds of things that are happening in the Signum Collaboratory. So I urge you to check out, of course, the Signum Collaboratory at collaboratory.signumuniversity.org, and check out the Signum Scene podcast. thank you, Adam. There's a link to it there. So, wanted to share this new thing that's happening. It should be a lot of fun. All right, let's dig back into the text, and so I will bring back in. Here we go. Oh, hang on, I lost you. There he is. All right, Chad, welcome back.
Hello.
All right. Okay, so let's pick up where we left off. So we were looking at just the text, just the page here of the script. We were just after. So I'm looking and I'm remembering just to the top right above the top hole on the first page. I'm seeing the word flowy for the second time. Right, so that begins the sentence. Flowy was buried in the grass by Miramir. Right, so there's grass by Miramir.
And that one looks like a B right there is the first M.
Is the first M, yeah. So you can see the double B, right?
Yep.
And with the double R right there in the middle, Mirror, right? Okay, so there's flowy. Buried by Miramir. And that's mostly where we got, right? I
suggested you stop right there, exactly.
Because that's when Gandalf says, the next line or two I cannot read, and we can see why. The next line or two are pretty blurred, except for this one tantalizing bit, which Gandalf seemed not to be able to read, but we can hear, right?
But you see at the far right edge of the hole there?
Yes.
There's two words, or partial words anyway. I don't know if you can make that out or not.
Okay, so let's see. So hang on, let me go back to my Kirith here. No, that's my Tangwar. Okay.
Yep.
So let's see. The fir's a G. No. It looks like a G. Oh wait, hang on. No, is it a K?
It's a K.
It's a K. It's one branch, right? That's right, because they don't use anyway that frou elf G in here in Moria anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We use the G that looks like a K. I'm remembering. Okay. So, but this is a K that looks like a G instead. Okay. So K, and then that one is an A.
Correct.
Okay. Right. Where are my vowels? Here are my vowels. Okay. Right. Good. All right.
Yeah.
So K, A, and that's an M.
Correct.
And that's a schwa. So came.
Came, exactly.
Came. Okay.
So there's one more thing I'll say. On one of the drafts, which people don't get a chance to see very easily, you can he didn't have the hole right there.
Okay.
And you can see ORE. So it has to have said, but more came.
But more came. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we know that it says, we did bury Flowy under grass near Miramir, but more came.
But more came. Okay. So interestingly, that kind of does flesh out the story a little bit more, right? Mm-hmm. That the first orc, who was probably some kind of spy or scout in advance of the primary force, No. Hang on. I'm thinking about Balin already. I'm way ahead of things. This is the first battle.
Right.
We're still talking.
Right.
About.
Exactly.
Okay. So it was telling. So wait. Hang on. So that's really interesting. Wait a second. I'm getting myself reoriented here. Flowy was killed by an arrow. He slew the great captain, of course, as we saw. Chieftain. The great chieftain. Yes.
Exactly.
And then Flowy into grass near Miramir. And then he says he can't. So the next thing we get in the published text is we have taken the 21st Hall of North End to dwell in. And so it sounds like we buried Flowy. The burial of Flowy sounds like the end of the battle, right? Like that's the end of the action sequence. But it isn't the end of the action sequence, right, because then more came. So it's almost like the reference to more coming makes it sound like the dwarves also thought that the burial of Flowy was the end of the action sequence, and then they were stopping to do burials. Or maybe that also explains why they buried him in the grass, because there was no time, right? There was no time to bury him in the stone because they were still fighting.
Right. And then it also makes you believe that this wasn't over with, and they may have like not even finished burying him. They may have had to run,
right,
while doing it. So
right.
So another thing before we move down to that one that you can kind of tell there's right below came, you can see another word.
Right,
and I don't know how much of that you can make out.
That also looks like a K and a schwa. And then, hang on, the branches are going both directions, which means it's a fricative. No, it's a nasal. I lied about that. It's because the fricatives are the ones that go this way. The plosives are the one that go that way, and the nasals go both way. So that's an N?
Yes.
Okay. So K, schwa, N. So like taken or something like that?
So on the same draft, you can tell that word was broken.
Broken. Okay. Broken.
And it looks like there was an S right before it. So I have assumed this, this is not
right
set in stone, that it said was broken.
Was broken. Right. So that means that this line would be, but more came.
And then something.
Right. It either describes broken, like where they came from or something like, came from here or whatever, came and did this or whatever. But then something was broken. And then, but right after broken is where we can get more stuff, right?
Right, exactly. And that's going to give it away.
All right. So let's see. So we've got, what's that one? That's a vowel, isn't it? The one that kind of looks like an H? That's an E. Yes, exactly. Not the first one. It's the second letter's an E, right?
The second letter. The one before it's a little tough, but if you do the next word, you'll understand what that first letter was.
Okay. Is that
a... skip to the next.
Okay, I'll skip to the next one. Okay, so the next one starts with an R, R-E, and then the one that looks like a P because it's a P. Okay.
The P.
Right.
It looks like a P because it is a P.
R-E-P-A...
Look closer at that one.
Oh no, that's not an A. It's got the thing inside. We're umlauting again.
Those weird ones are off to the right.
Yeah. Okay. So is that is it the long vowel A?
Go to the right some more.
All the way to the OU? Oh, the AI. AI. Okay, right. Because it looks like an A, and it's an extra foot in there. Yeah. Okay. I see it. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's an AI. REPAI repair. So that would be, is that repaired?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Repaired.
Is that, now that's funny because that next letter doesn't quite look like an R.
It is if you zoom in on it, yeah.
Okay.
And it's messed up a little bit, but
yeah. Well, it's it's blurred. Gandalf couldn't read it, so okay.
Exactly. I mean, we're reading it
right
with difficulty. So
the first verb has to be we repaired.
We repaired. Exactly. So was broken. We repaired.
Was broken. We repaired. Yeah. We repaired. And that's like a schwa D there. Mm. Okay, was broken. Right, we repaired.
Yeah. And then we that for some reason that's not a schwa. That's a regular E there. It's not a schwa. It's Y. You see how it should have been a schwa.
Right.
But who messed this up? Did Tolkien do it, or what I'm saying?
And that's now that you could excuse as a stylistic choice.
Exactly.
Right. That's not necessarily even an absolute error, just an inconsistency with what we see elsewhere.
I just like to say that every time. Who messed this up? Was it the modern day transcriber? Was it the old, was it the guy in Gondor who was trying to
exactly, the faithful reproduction, right?
Was it one of the hobbits that over at Mitchell Delving,
Yeah, exactly.
Right, smile.
Was it was it that slipshod archivist J.R.R. Tolkien who discovered the texts? You can't ever be sure if you can trust that guy, So,
right. Yeah. Aronoff said maybe they pronounce it repaired.
Repaired, right? Exactly. It's a stressed D. Yeah, they did that sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we repair.
So we repair. So we don't. I couldn't tell what it was supposed to have been that was repaired because that I zoomed in a lot and I had some seriously high res scans and I couldn't really tell what that said right there. So what was it that was broken and we repaired? Probably a gate or a door of some kind, but that's all we can get. So
Yeah.
we got a few more words than what Gandalf did, right?
Right. So, but you know what this immediately suggests to me?
Yeah. Okay.
Procedurally, right? We have the end of the initial battle in the Dimrill Dale and the burial of Floey. Though orcs are still coming, right? There's still orcs. And then 3 lines down, because this looks like the return to the main text, right? We have taken, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have taken and that's a T and that's a W. So I can see this is the 20. This must be the NT Kirith here. So the 21st F, because it's pointing that way. IRST 21st Hall. Okay, so we have taken the 21st Hall. We'll continue that line in a second. But the point is, up in this line, we're still in the Dimrill Dale. 3 lines down, we're taking the 21st Hall, right?
And you could also see that it's you can see that Tolkien tried to change his writing a little bit to maybe say here's where that other hand started,
right? Or even just time has passed, right?
Yeah, possibly so. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because of course you often see that in manuscripts when it's like, oh look, the scribe either started using a new pen at this point, or like it was a new day and the light was better, or he'd had a good night's sleep or whatever. You can just sometimes tell like that.
Right.
So yes, but anyway, here's the interpretive point that I'm getting to. Physically, geographically, what's between the Dimrill Dale and the 21st Hall? The bridge. I know that one of the questions I had when we were reading the text through is if the dwarves were coming in and the orcs were defending the hall, which is certainly what it sounded like, right? With from the very beginning, we drove out orcs from the Great Gate and guard room, and of course in the text we read about them taking the first hall, right?
Right.
So, a question that I was immediately having is, why didn't the orcs break the bridge? Because that's why the bridge is such a great defense, right? Not only is it a choke point, and a really, really good choke point, a really long choke point, but you can break it, and then basically the people pretty much can't get in, right? And why wouldn't the orcs do that? But what if they did? Right? What if, in fact, the dwarves had to repair the bridge in order to get, which of course they would have done and they would have wanted to do. Anyway, yeah, right. Jackie says more Malden, more Battle of Malden. Yes, it is more Battle of Malden. Exactly. Anyway, yeah. So it's again, I don't know, but I'm trying to think of what else in between Dimrill Dale and the 21st Hall that they would mention. This is hardly an exhaustive description, right? We're talking about 3 whole lines of text to describe the whole thing. What else would have been broken and repaired that you'd mention in this much, as that percentage of this text? The bridge, I think, makes a good deal of sense,
partially broken or the door because remember they go through a guard room there also at the edge. Remember, because there's when they're running out at the end when Aragorn and them are running out, there's some guards hiding there at near the gate. So it's kind of tough to tell. I mean, I zoomed in, I scanned it really, really high res and zoomed in, and I scanned those ones that come with the author illustrated version that came out a few years ago, where you actually get the plastic versions of this with it, and I put it on this giant scanner I have and put it where I wanted it to be 900 dots per inch. So several monitors big.
That's pretty intense. It's pretty intense. So I see a bunch of people are resistant to the idea that the bridge could be broken, by like non-Gandalfian means. But I have to say I can't agree with that. If you build a slender bridge like that as part of a defense, you make it breakable. Like the last thing the dwarves of Khazad-dûm would have done is to make the bridge of Khazad-dûm indestructible. To be able to throw down the bridge after yourself is the only sensible defense. Remember when Turin decides to build a bridge into I almost said Gondolin, into Nargothrond, right? The one that lets the dragon in. The whole point was you don't want a bridge that you cannot easily destroy, or it becomes a highway for your enemies to come through. So the fact that the bridge is explicitly described as part of the defense suggests to me that the dwarves would not only have made it breakable, but possibly even rigged to be destroyed. Like flip a lever and it'll go down, or part of it will go down at least. So anyway, like I
wouldn't. Yeah. I wouldn't die on that hill.
Oh no, I'm not saying so either. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I certainly think it's. I can't agree with the idea that because the ancient dwarves built it, it must be indestructible. I think they would have designed it to be destructible. Anyway, now
the only thing about that is because this was in 2989, right?
Right.
I think this was 2989 when this happened. So only 30 years later, all of our guys are back in there, right? So
yeah.
So to build it again, it seemed like it would take a while to build it if that was true. But whatever, it could be that. It could be something that was leading up to it. It could be after the bridge. It could be something that
potentially could be.
Yeah.
Could be. I also think it could just be like a bit of the bridge, like not the whole bridge, but a bit of the bridge.
Yeah.
Which enough that the dwarves themselves, like Balin's company, could have fixed it while they were in charge. And I don't doubt that had Gimli had the leisure, which he most decidedly did not, to inspect it carefully, he might have noticed where the ancient stonework ended and the newer stonework began in the repair of the bridge. So
there's something else I always like to think of. Since you're saying all this, there's something I like to think of when I look at this that you don't really get when you're reading what he says. I like to try and think of how free they were. Apparently, accordingly, from what you've been saying in your show here, there was probably quite a few of these guys, not just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, but there are probably quite a few dwarves here for them to be able to even take this back at all, right? So I always try to think, okay, how free were they to move in? So right here, it looks like they're coming in for the first time.
Yeah.
And they're documenting actually pushing orcs back and defeating them and so forth. As we read through, I like to think about, okay, how free were they to move around inside and not actually get attacked again?
Yes.
And because later on we find out that Owain obviously was killed by going out those doors.
Yes.
That the last we hear is they were closed in 1697 whenever Sauron attacked Ostinediel, right? So
right.
And Durin backed in and closed them, and the next time you hear of them being open, Owain had to have opened them and gone out to get taken by the Watcher,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
I used to think when I was younger, oh wow, these doors have been closed ever since Sauron took the rings back. But no, it can't be. Owain had to have gone out those. Yeah.
And there's also the reference to going to Holland Gate that seems to significantly predate that in time. So it's possible that they were, that Owen's was just the last time they were opened during that sequence. It's possible they'd gone out that way or tried to go out that way. No, in fact, I would argue logically they had to have, because they mentioned that the waters had risen. And so they'd only know that if they'd seen the waters lower before. So it has to be at least the second time that they were open during the time that Balin was there. Yeah. Anyway, so, okay. But yeah, I agree. The whole middle period I mean, one of the things that we were noticing when we were reading through the published text is after this first sequence, after Floey slays the Great, there is nothing in the published text that suggests they have the first problem with orcs until the end, right? Until Balin's death. Which is really interesting, right? I mean, it suggests either an utter, like, resounding dwarf victory, like exterminating the orcs of Moria, which seems really unlikely, statistically speaking, just given how many dwarves went there. Not that we know exactly how many dwarves went there, but they have to have been less than all of the orcs of Moria combined, right? So, or the orcs of Moria withdrew, which seems to be, for whatever reason, and we don't know.
It's not out of the question. That seems very likely that once the orcs get defeated pretty badly, they have a tendency to
scurry away.
Exactly, and we'll regroup and come attack again when they're by themselves.
Right.
So, yeah. Hey, something else I thought of while we were talking just a few minutes ago. Back to the word repaired.
Yes.
I didn't think about this when we were looking at it earlier, but when you were looking at that, you see the REP and then the AI, that Cirth right there for the AI, which looks like an A with a line in it.
Yeah.
And then if you skip one more Cirth and you see the next one, that's the R.
Yeah.
That one in the middle is an I. So if you think about it, that actually says REPAII.
R. Yeah.
RED. Yeah. So who did that? who had the extra I? It's repaired, right?
Right. Maybe they had some kind of a drawl there.
Maybe.
Hang on a second though.
Yes.
That doesn't look.
Number 39.
It doesn't look so much like an eye to me, though.
If you zoom in, you can see there's a smudge there, but that the R is next to it, and what looks like, okay, so if at first when you first look at it, it looks kind of like a T. It looks like a T where it's got a straight line up and then a line
and then a little flag. Yeah.
That little flag that you think is actually the left-hand flag for the R.
Oh,
it's weird
I see.
Looking.
I see. That's because because the R has the ones that go both ways up top,
and it's like the ink just pooled a little bit at the end.
At the end of it, so you can barely see the top of the line, but you can see the bottom of it. I see.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Anyway,
okay.
Not to go way back in time here, but
pied red. Yeah. Now that could also mean though, what looks like an AI, the little extra foot in the middle might be a smudge, so that it actually is an A, and then an I.
It's so the problem with that is that Cirth is listed as AI.
Right. I guess it should be AI.
In other words, there's one like that that's listed as AI.
Right. So. Right. Yeah. No. I mean, I know that it makes sense there, but I'm saying if it were A, that would explain why it was A and then I, even though you could still call that an inconsistency or a mistake and say, why didn't he use the AI Cirth instead of saying A and then I?
Or it's also quite likely that that Tolkien wrote that, put that, and didn't even accidentally put the other one there,
right? And
thought about putting just the A and then the I, and
and then decided it was too blurred for Gandalf to be able to read.
Right, yeah.
Let's skip over that one.
That's actually really good. Yeah, exactly.
Right, okay.
I can't read that.
Okay, nobody can read that one for good reasons, right? So we'll just move on. Yeah.
This word doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind that it doesn't actually say this anyway. It says it in Westron, right?
Right. So, of course. Yeah.
So we've got a misspelled English word.
Right.
So we go back to our little game we play.
Exactly, which widens the pool, right, of people that it could be. Yeah.
Did Tolkien see a misspelled Westron word and say, well, since they misspelled the Westron word for repaired, I'm going to misspell the English word for repaired?
Right.
So.
Right. Yes. Now, Captain Mo is saying Tolkien definitely wrote the whole page and then decided what to delete maybe, but I think it's actually even more likely that he wrote what he wrote in the text first and then basically revised and expanded it and decided and was adding in the stuff that he knew that he had left out in the main text. And of course he would have known, exactly as many of you have been saying, well, Ball, we're studying this under, with more time and under better light, which is why, of course, Tolkien would have felt comfortable including text that Gandalf didn't read. He wouldn't have felt bound only to include the stuff that Gandalf could read, because he'd be like, yeah, you can puzzle out this extra stuff that Gandalf couldn't puzzle out because you're sitting at home in your armchair with good light, right? And then
also, there was something else that you just brought up that I was going to say. The fact that he is doing this, and whenever you're looking at the different ones, now of course it's written the same way, but I try to figure out, okay, since it says there's several hands, when is the change hand? So the reason I say that it's possible this is supposed to be the next hand is because the next line it's like made out to be a little more clear.
Yes.
And it's thicker. You see how it's thicker than that at the top?
Yeah.
It's almost like he changed pins or something.
No, I think you're right. And if you also look at, he's changed it stylistically too. So if we look at some similar letters, right? Like look at the T, right? We have taken, right? The first three words that I already read, right? So looking at taken, look at that first T. The first T has a really, it's very sharp. It's even got a fancy little foot at the bottom of the T. It's got like a serif at the bottom of the, right?
Exactly.
Look at the T up at the end, up in the first line, right? We drove.
It's gone at the end of the flag. It's got a little upwards at the end of the top of the T.
Right, right here. Yeah, exactly. And look how curvy all of this stuff is, right? All of this. So this is a T right here, right? Like, right? Isn't this it on the second line, right?
That's a T. That's took.
That's took, right? Took. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So look, it's got a little foot. But again, look how different it is. Instead of curving down to it, it curves down to it instead of going down and then going down and then kind of kicking over. And the top is, as you say, it curves up at the end, whereas this one does not. Just like, yes, as a, if we're doing like an amateur handwriting analysis, it would be easy to see, to suggest that this was written by a different person. Look at the K in taken here and compare it to the K in, I was just looking at a K up here.
Look at took.
In took.
Look at the K of took.
Yeah, look at the K in took. Look at how curvy it is.
Roundy.
Yeah,
roundy.
exactly.
Yeah.
So someone's writing in Cirth, but they're writing it all, it's like, maybe this was Ori writing in Cirth with like a Tengwar influence, like creeping in, right? And he's making it bowish, whereas this is a much more rigid Cirth. So yeah, exactly. As Bjorning says, a variety of hands that wrote it. Yeah, exactly.
And I see Maureen put some of the drafts in there. As far as I know, there are 4 known drafts of this page right here that I've seen, if I remember correctly. There may be more, but there's 4 that I've seen. And the drafts are a lot more phonetic. And when he gets to the final one, it ends up being more orthographic. There's still some built, you know how you always talk about like you like the phoneticism of the consonants.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is like that. This is made like that. But the earlier versions, they had like take was T-E-I-K.
Right.
Instead of T-A-K-E.
To tell you how the vowel sounded. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Whereas this is just doing thing like putting Z's for voiced S's and stuff like that.
We're about to run into that on this next line that you're looking at.
Right.
Where you said we have taken the 21st hall.
We have taken the 21st hall. That's H-A-L-L there, right? Yeah, the two with the little double slash there in the middle. Is that and?
That little blob there is a V. It's a V, which is a backwards R looking one.
The 21st hall.
That's
okay. So of. Oh, right. Of. Right.
Uh-huh.
Of.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Of, and that's North, N-O-R-T. Wait a second.
Okay, yeah. Look,
Why is
look
that T
closely at this one.
backwards? Ah, it's TH. It's TH.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's T-A.
Okay, it's backwards because it's
N-O-R-T-A.
fricative. Yeah, of North. And that's E-N-D, North End.
No, so that's E-N.
It's
That's an
E-N.
N right there. Now look at the next line. There's an N-D.
Oh. E-N-N-D.
Right, North End.
North End.
Right.
All right, okay, I see the N,
Okay, and then the ND.
and then the ND, which
Right, that's the N.
is up and down.
That's like,
Yeah, there
that's
it
like
is.
that's the way it was on Fundinul. Remember the Fundinul?
Right. Fundinul.
Yeah,
Right.
That's the one that's like the Dream Theater emblem.
Yes. Yes. And it's a nasal, so it's got them going both directions, and it has the voiced element with the D, so it has extras, but it's weird because it's nasalized. So, okay. North End
Right. We have taken the 21st hall of North End. Okay.
To D-W-E-L-L, to dwell in.
Dwell in, exactly.
Okay. And
now you've got that backwards D. Just like a while ago.
D, yeah. Backwards D. We know it's a D because it looks like a T, but it's backwards. Wait, hang on. But it's backwards, which means it's if it's that way, it's a fricative, yeah?
It's a DH, exactly.
It's a the.
That's the. Exactly.
Right. Okay. So the backwards T is the TH, and the and so
Backwards
with voiced,
D.
it's got the two. Right.
It's Ev. That's the Ev
That's
sound.
the Ev. Right. Okay. To dwell in the THER dwell there.
Yep.
There.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's a schwa with the silent E at the end.
So, yeah. So that's supposed to be to dwell in. We have taken the 21st hall of North End to dwell in. New sentence.
New sentence.
There.
Though there's no indication of that, just to get there's only a single dot.
You'll figure it out. Yeah.
Okay. There that's a Z, isn't that a Z?
Yep. Exactly.
IZ.
Now, you remember there's a couple of spots where it's just a Z is the right?
Right, yeah.
This time he's got that.
Right. So often, and this comes from the fact, Chad, because I remember this came up when we were talking about Tengwar as well, that they just don't do short vowels as much as we do in English.
Exactly.
Like short vowels in English, like we use short vowels all the time. Like constantly we're using short vowels. Whereas in Tolkien's languages, they use short vowels much, much less often. So much less often that in fact they often will just skip them. Right? Or at least in the writing.
Not only that, but like when you look in Appendix E, it says that there's only 5 vowel sounds if you don't include the Y that sounds like you know.
Right.
So really all of the I's should sound like E. They should not ever sound like. They shouldn't sound like "eh" ever.
Yeah,
they should always sound like
exactly. Yeah, because like,
we always say Gimli, so we're pronouncing the second I correctly, and we're pronouncing the first I as what we call a short I, not what Tolkien says is a short I. Short means don't say it, don't hold it as long.
Gimli. Gimli is
because if we're gonna say if the first I is right, then it'd be Gimli, right? So, or it's either Gimli or Gimli. You know, so.
Yeah, Gimli, I think it could. Yeah, no, I mean, modern English is pretty weird when it comes to the I's. Like, right, where I is either a schwa, basically, or a diphthong, right? Because I is not a vowel sound. It's a combination of vowel sounds. It's ah and E.
It's really hard to say all this stuff right all the time. So I point it out, but I don't insist all the time. I want to make sure people know.
Yes.
But
yeah.
So when you look at this, since this stuff is all written orthographically, there's not really a good way to say is.
Right.
So
right.
You know, that would say ease, right? So,
right.
But they don't. But of course, he's writing it in English anyway. right? So
Yeah, exactly.
English.
And
He's doing it orthographically, but he's putting the z, so that is the you remember the s looks like a greater or a less than sign.
right. And it's right, and the Z is the two of them superimposed on each other. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
cool.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now I
Okay.
remember right here on your on your other ones without me before this, right here you paused and said there is, and then
Right. I cannot read what a shaft is mentioned.
I heard you say good at one point on this one of the previous episodes of this.
Uh-huh.
And I was thinking, how did he figure that out without already seeing? Because if you look at the next word,
I must have I must have been totally unconscious because the next is G.
And then it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell because it's blurred so much.
Yeah.
But that's a D. And then that one in between there is the same OO as what you see in Took on the second to top.
Oh, right, like
there.
the little double mountain peak thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can just see that. And then that's a D. You can see a double line there. Okay. All right.
So that there is good, and then I know you can read the next word.
Okay, there is good air.
Exactly.
AIR. There's good air. Oh, that's cool. All right. Okay, so there's good air. All right, so now Gandalf can't read anything until we get to the word shaft. So we know we're in new territory until we get to shaft. There's good.
And I remember I heard you talking about shaft a whole lot, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be cool when he gets to this.
Yeah, because already good air is starting to.
Because you were like shaft for light.
Exactly. Yeah, it's starting to shed new light on the whole shaft question already.
It's a shaft for air.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, there's good air.
It's too hard to read that next part. I couldn't.
Yeah. Okay.
You can see there's an R and an E there, but you can't really see what it says.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really tempting. This looks like what is it? The one. Where did it go? I don't remember it, but I'll know it when I see it. Hang on.
I couldn't make out enough of it to say this is what this would be.
Yeah, I see an
but
OU.
It looks like there's an R.
The OU one. That's the one. The tall ones with the two triangles pointing either way. That looks like that right there, near the end of the line. Looks like an OU, but
possibly.
I can't really.
You can't get enough out of it to know there is good air, and then what?
Right.
And the drafts didn't really give enough of it away.
Didn't really give any hints. Okay.
Yeah, not enough anyway.
All right. Could on your massively blown up copy, could you make out any of this next line?
Just right below where you see good air.
Yeah.
You can see good again. You can see the word good right there.
Yeah. Good again. And then okay, hang on. This looks like it starts with a fricative. That's a the again.
Right. Exactly.
Good.
That's a DH, and then there's I don't know how easily you can see it.
Is that an E?
But that's an A. That's an A. Next.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's a T.
Okay. That. Good that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you got good air, and then we can't read that, and then there's good that, and then the next word you can probably read the next word. It's
maybe. Hang on.
At first letter with K.
I gotta blow it up more here. Hang on, I can do
that. Okay, good.
I can blow it up a little bit. Okay. Oh yeah, this is so much better. Good that. What? Oh, that's something. Is that
that's a K? It's
a K.
Too low.
It's a K. Right. So it just goes down to K A, and that one's wait, what was that one again? Hang on. N.
K-A-N. Yep.
Okay, hang on. Yeah. So K-A-N.
Good that can.
Good that can.
And then that next one looks like a pitchfork. Go look for that one on there because this is going to give it away. As soon as you get this letter, you're going to know what it says. Bottom right.
Bottom right.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, where'd it go? Oh, way bottom right.
It's way bottom right, exactly.
Way bottom right. Okay. Is that an N again?
There you go. No, all the way to the right, bottom right, all the way to the bottom right.
Oh, EA?
Exactly. Okay, so now go back to your screen. Good.
Okay,
that
good.
Can.
That can.
And then EA.
Can EAS.
Uh-huh.
I.
Uh-huh.
Good that can ease LY. Good that can
Exactly.
easily. Right.
And you can read the next word too.
Okay. Well, the next one
Good that can.
is all blood soaked. Okay.
Got blood on it, but you can read it.
Good that can easily. Is that? Let's see. Is that B?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I
Exactly.
see it. Well, it looks like a capital R in English.
Right.
And is
Yep.
it B? Yeah. It's okay. Good that can easily be.
All right. Next line.
now we're in business. Can easily
We're
be.
right. We're reading stuff that Gandalf could not read.
You're right. Good that can easily be WAT. Watch. Watched. Yes. WATCH schwa D. Good that can easily be watched. Wow.
And the next one.
Okay.
We're getting places, right?
All right.
getting
We're on the move here. Okay. All right. Okay. Good that can easily be
This
watched.
one's a little tough. This is a little tougher. You kind of like, you can see that R there. You see the R at the end of that. It actually is the word over. It's too hard to kind of, it's hard to read it this
that
way.
one's tough.
But that actually says watched over, and you can
Watched
really
over.
only see the R.
Right.
But I've got a better scan of this than what that looks like.
Okay.
But that says good that can easily be
watched
watched over. And then you can't read the next couple of words there.
Okay, but they're short.
They're short words. So what could it be? Good that can easily be watched over, and then there's a couple more words, and then there's that little dot there starting a new sentence.
I'm guessing by again.
By us.
Something like that.
Maybe that's an L. Maybe that's an L right there. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell, so I just left that blank because I was too unsure about what it said.
Agreed. It can't be sure, but I'm thinking of this easily by or yeah.
Yeah, good that can easily be watched over.
And then again, thinking in English, two short words like that look like a prepositional phrase. That's why I'm thinking by something, right?
And the next word would have to be really short, maybe 3 letters at most.
By us, by them, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like by and then a pronoun, basically, would fit as far as just like what you would expect the English to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now remember, right after that dot, that little line that looks like a line coming from the top and stopping halfway. That's the.
Okay, that's the. Okay, so that is it's not a mistake. That's a the. Okay.
Right, that's the.
All right. Okay, now hang on a second here, because I want to. I don't actually need to zoom out to see the whole text, but I just want to make sure. I don't want to get so lost in the words, and this is going to shock some people to hear me say. I don't want to get so lost in the words I'm losing track of what they say. Right. So.
Right.
The thing that I find most striking at first glance here is the repetition of good, but they're using the word good in totally different senses, right? It's an adjective both times. It's not like they're using it in a different part of speech or something like that.
Vardenzil said watched by Ori. That's actually a pretty good. Yeah.
Ooh.
It doesn't really look like an O starting that word. It doesn't look like an O there.
Yeah.
But that could be.
Because the O is the one that looks like a little triangle.
You know what it could be? It could be Loni. Because remember Loni. Yeah, it could be Loni.
Right, that does look like an L at the beginning.
That's actually. I like it. That's actually closer than I've ever been to knowing what this says. It's possible that that's
Right.
what it says. I wouldn't hang my hat on it, but that's
Yeah.
pretty good.
No, it's okay.
Watched by few. Lothlornileth says, watched by few.
Few would fit.
If that was, but that doesn't look like an F.
It doesn't. It looks much more like an L than an F.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, all right. Anyway, so the point I was making was that
Yeah.
when we come to the end of what Gandalf could read in the text, right, that they've come to, they've taken the 21st Hall of North End to dwell in, right?
Right. Yeah.
There is good air.
Right.
So the good is just describing the noun that they're talking about. Like they're looking for good air. The second time, it is good that, right? So the first is just describing the thing. There is good air. The second is in expressing an opinion, right? Which suggests to me a kind of a modulation, right? We're shifting away from we're just giving the facts and telling you what we did to starting to describe plans and speculations, right? When you're saying it is good that, you're just talking in a totally different way than you were talking the first time. So whatever comes in between the two goods, which is what's really hard to read there, between good air and the second good that, it's about a line or so, right? But it would seem to me that the reference to the good air in the 21st hall, which is presumably why they landed there, right? Because we know, I mean, of course, we have already seen that there are air shafts in the 21st hall, and so it would make sense that the air would certainly be good there because it's exposed to the outside. Whereas there's there are lots of reasons, lots of ways to think of how, like, why is the air bad anywhere else? Like, well, it could be, centuries of orc filth makes the air bad in other places. It could be rotting corpses in other places. There's been battles, for crying out loud, right? But the air is consistently good in the 21st hall because it's open to the outside, right? So as an explanation of things, like of why they set up their base at the 21st hall, that makes a lot of sense. And by the way, I don't think that we commented on it at the time when we were talking about the passage which refers to the 21st hall. But it now strikes me how pointedly ironic Tolkien has made Gimli's earlier statement in retrospect. He's standing in 21st hall when he says, I doubt now that Balin ever came here, right? And he says that in the room that Balin and his people made their home base when they came there. Like, that's how thoroughly they have been wiped out, is that he can't even tell that he's standing in their home base.
There.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But okay, so we get a little glimpse. The good air gives us a little glimpse into why they chose the 21st hall, which is cool. But this next line, as I say, is transitioning into explaining, like making plans for moving forwards, right? Good that can easily be watched over by something, right?
Yeah. So basically, the stuff we can't read is probably discussing, there's good air, and then good that can easily be watched over by few or by Loney or whatever. I'm sure there was a lot more than the ones we know about, but basically they could just be talking about how this is actually a good spot.
Right.
Because we can breathe easily here.
Right. And there are other tactical advantages, right? That they can. The watched over reference suggests to me that even though, based on what Gandalf reads in the published text, the setting up in the 21st hall sounds like the beginning of their cheerful orc-free existence in Moria for several years, right?
Yeah.
Presumably, they're not assuming that for very understandable reasons, and right. So the first thing that they are obviously concerned about is, is it livable, right? Can we breathe properly and not be surrounded by orc filth or whatever. And secondly, tactically, right? That it can be secured in some way.
Yeah, because I'm sure that the even though they're used to living inside a mountain
Yes.
like that, I'm sure that living inside Erebor is much different smell
Yes.
and
Once they
air
got the
movement.
dragon stink out, probably took a little while to air it out fully.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's been a little while.
It's been a while
right?
now.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been what 40. It's been what 8 years now.
It's true. Though now, one thing I would say, I mean, there are a bunch of people expressing concerns like gas in mines, which is always, I agree, a concern, and just sufficiency of
Take
air.
a canary with you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know if they brought caged canaries with them on the expedition or what.
Like a thrush. Take a thrush.
Take a thrush. That'd be mean to the poor thrushes. I'd hope they'd have a more constructive relationship with the thrushes than that. But I would also say the one thing I think that they would, in general, I mean, there would be places perhaps where they'd have to worry about sufficient oxygen. But remember, Moria is massive. Like the places in North, they're not gonna run out of air to breathe in Moria unless they get trapped or in some place or something like that. But still. I tend to think
when they first got there, it probably did stink like orc really badly.
Yeah,
when they first got in.
Exactly. I mean, the thing that I can't help but remember is the fact that when Sam is standing in Shelob's lair and he is trying to express exactly how bad it smells, the standard that he uses is that it smells like an orc hole with centuries of their filth accumulated in it, right? Which is literally what Moria would have been when Balin and company first moved in, right? But anyway, okay. Now, Bjorning, on the one hand, I think you're perfectly correct that we can't be positive that all that many orcs actually lived in Moria. It's possible that they were not huge fans of Durin's Bane either, and didn't cheerfully live in that space. But of course, there are two main reasons that we have to think that it's likely that there were orcs there. One is that there were orcs defending the door when Balin showed up. And so it seems a little unlikely that they imported orcs just for the defense at the spur of the moment or whatever. The second reason, of course, is the Battle of Azanulbazar, right? I mean, Azog and Bolg clearly cohabited with the Balrog because that was still comfortably during the Balrog zone, right? And we know that it was, in fact, chock full of orcs at that time. And so, therefore, we know that... now, of course, you could totally construct a narrative that says, like, oh, well, that's because, like, Azog was this really strong leader and drove them back to live there, though they didn't like it. But again, all we know is that there definitely were times when there were lots of goblins living there.
I have a feeling there weren't, like, roach infestation like in the film, where they're coming out of the ceiling and stuff. But there was probably a whole lot there, I would imagine.
Yeah. No, I think there were. Though, again, that they seem to have withdrawn when Balin and his company, drove them out at the very beginning. Seems, as far as we can tell, to be true. Let's see if we discover anything to the contrary.
I would also think that Balin had a whole lot of people there, a whole lot of dwarves.
Yeah.
And the fact that per capita orcs aren't as good of fighters in general as anyone else.
Right.
That they had to have had massive advantage in numbers in order to just wipe them out.
And certainly aren't going to be as well armed, anything like as well armed as especially since, and also one of the things that the films have consistently led people to like mispicture from the book. Orcs are small. Remember when he's describing, remember ahead in exploring the Lord of the Rings world, remember ahead that when he's describing how huge the Uruk-hai are, he calls some of them almost man high.
Almost. Yes.
Right? Like, and that's extraordinary for orcs. So orcs are like much more hobbit-sized.
And they don't even mean Dunedain high either. They
They mean regular person high. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, these giant Uruks are almost 6 feet
Almost 6 feet tall. Like, that's just huge.
Right.
So
I feel every one of us would tower over them.
Everybody. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So yes, they're yes. Anyway, so I certainly agree that the dwarves, especially a well-coordinated dwarf army, heavily armed and armored as a dwarf army could be, would certainly be more than a match for possibly several times their number in orcs in pitched battle.
Also remember that Tolkien imagined Gandalf being middle 5 foot.
Yeah, he's like 5'9". Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so he's not as tall as the rest of them, and he still towered over the orcs. So
yes, that's right. Okay. Anyway, all right. Let's move forward. I just wanted to comment on how they seem to be not only explaining what they did, but also segueing into planning what they're going to be doing. It's good, good that. Wait, sorry. What does it say? It says good that can easily be watched over. Yeah.
And then the next word may be by, and then
by
a person or a few or. Yeah.
Okay, so one last thing before we do move on. What would the word before likely be? I don't mean by looking at the text. I'm just thinking about English syntax here. If you say good that can be easily watched over. Good.
Yeah, so you mean before good.
Before good.
Yeah, it's
because
a little tough to read.
Good that can be easily watched over. Again, I'm not even looking at the text right now. We'll come back to the text after we think it through syntactically here. But normally, before a that clause, that can be, normally you'd expect a noun there. Right? Like, it is like he has a garden that can be easily looked over, right? Is like the sort of the normal way that we would shape, or he has a door that can easily be opened, or something, right? That's the way normally we would expect that to be used. In which case, good would be a noun. It would be a different if that's the case, but that seems weird. Because if they're using the word good as a noun, then it's really abstract. Like that would be a weird thing for them to do. I wonder, is there a chance it's not a D?
So if it's not, it looks like if it's not a D, then it would be like a T, but that
T is what I was thinking of, but I can't say gut.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Suddenly speaking with a German accent or something.
So that's the reason why I came to the conclusion that was good again.
Right.
Is that other than that, like what else could it be?
Right. Vardendale, that's the direction I was thinking of.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Just saying like it is good that can be easily so instead of that being the introduction to the clause, right? Instead,
it could also have meant
it is good that.
Could have also been, yes, it could have meant to say good that it can easily be watched over, and the it is forgotten
or implied. Yes.
Yeah, or implied, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
good that it can
easily watched over.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So they're talking about, so that could mean that there is some convenience or perhaps ease of access that is that is convenient, but it's good that it can easily be watched over. Like we're glad that we can still watch our backs in case the orcs do return or something like that.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah, some of it's kind of tough to read, and so when you come to it, we could discuss it, and if it seems like that it could be something else, it's just like that by few or by Loney or
Right.
whoever.
Right.
It's
Right.
I don't really know what it says there. So
Yeah. I do
anybody-
think Colin asks a great question, which is good the whole word there? Could it be the end? It does look like a significant gap
there's a
in front of
space.
it.
Yeah.
I think
Sometimes it's
they can't.
You're going to see that in a couple spots, though.
Okay, right. It's possible. Anyway,
You're gonna see some words that are split that should be together. There's a
Right.
couple words that.
right. So it's not impossible. It's not impossible,
Right.
but good is not like a super common second half of a word anyway. So anyway, okay. But all right. So good that perhaps it implied can easily be watched over, perhaps by someone or something. Hang on, I know this one. Ooh, is that an SH?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's fricative because it points that way. Okay, the shay. That's not a P because it points the other way, so it's an F. The shaft. There's the shaft. It's Gandalf's shaft.
Exactly. There you go.
Okay. SHAFT. The shafts. Is that a Z?
Shaft. Exactly.
The shafts. So in fact, he says a shaft is mentioned, but he's wrong. It's plural shafts that are mentioned.
No. That's another word. A shaft. So.
Oh, a shaft is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shaft is. Now look at the next word.
A shaft is.
This is kind of hard. This word is
that
kind of
one's-
hard.
this one is
Blow
kinda-
it up so you
Okay.
can see.
All right. Oh, this is easier blown up. This looks like a G. Oh, hang on, that made it harder.
That's not a G.
That's
That's
not a
a
G?
K. That's a K.
Oh, because it's only got the one stem up top.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's kind of super confusing.
And then
when
it's
it
kinda
is
hard to see
actually
the
a
next
K,
one.
it's a G. But okay, it's a K.
But you can see the third letter. Look at the third curve.
Is that the?
Is that EA again?
It's the EA again. Yeah, EA again. Okay, so it's K, and then EA.
KLEA.
KL. Okay, I was wondering if that was an L. You can kind of see the crossbar.
Right.
So clear.
Uh-huh.
Clear. Okay.
So
shaft
Gandalf
the
says,
shaft is clear.
So Gandalf says a shaft is mentioned, but it actually says the shaft is clear.
The shaft is clear.
Yeah.
Huh. The shaft is clear.
Yeah, and he's
So-
possibly. I'm imagining he's talking about the shaft with the air in it. Right.
Right? Yes. Although I don't know, because this comes right after talking about it's good that it can easily be watched over, right? So if you're talking about it's good, like good can be easily watched over, and then you immediately say the shaft is clear, sounds like we've been watching over it and we haven't seen anything.
Right.
Come out.
Maybe they're looking through this shaft, and that is where the air is. But they're also watching it to make sure nothing is coming out of it.
Just like Pippin, right? Pippin, there's the draft coming up the hole in the watch room, right? By the meetings of the ways, and a draft of air comes up through that, and Pippin is imagining that something's going to crawl up there. Now, I'm not saying it's necessarily that shaft that they're talking about, because that shaft is way far away from it's a day's walk away from the 21st Hall.
Right.
But we have that model. I mean, that's why it's the first thing that occurs to me when he says like Pippin might have written the shaft is clear, right? Before he went to sleep, right? Or I hope the shaft is clear, right?
Right.
Yeah. So Vardendale, that's exactly the hole that we plugged can easily be watched over. That kind of, or the whole. I think the point is they're not plugging it. That's why they're glad it can be watched over, right?
Yeah.
And this perhaps is all part of the ventilation system, right? Because you'd think if they're leaving shafts like access, if they're living in the 21st Hall and the shaft that they're talking about is not just the shafts that lead outside, but shafts that lead to other levels inside and therefore create this larger circulation of air, which makes for the good air. You would want to leave that open for ventilation, but it any shafts that are left open like that are going to reduce security when you're worried about orcs and things crawling up. Remember the orcs crawling through the culvert at Helm's Deep as well, right? So yeah, it's a security risk, but it's good that it can be watched over. And then the note is the shaft is clear. And so maybe this is an indication. We don't know. Like, I would suggest the reason that Gandalf can read the word shaft is that this is again in a new bold hand. This could be a new, like, there could be a time gap between it's good that it could be easily washed over, and then somebody else 2 weeks later wrote the shaft is clear. Like, we've been watching over it, A-okay so far, nothing's come up. I think we're good.
You can also tell that after the shaft is clear, that really is the end of that line. There's nothing written after it. It's like ending a paragraph type thing.
Yes, the shaft is clear. Yes, the shaft is clear. Space, right, and then a big old capital letter.
Carriage return. Yeah.
Yeah, carriage return. Exactly. Carriage return accentuated by bloodstain. Yes. 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 Yeah. Okay.
I wonder how many people listening to us don't know what carriage return
Yeah,
means.
exactly. I was thinking the same thing. He's referring to a typewriter, people, an old manual typewriter where you hit the big bar at the top and move it back.
Ring.
Exactly. Yes. Ka-ching. Exactly. I used to love that thing. But still, possibly the greatest Christmas present I ever received was the manual typewriter my mom gave me when I was 8 years old at Christmas, and that was like the beginning of my creative writing career when I got my manual typewriter, and I remember it had a big old metal lever at the top. Like it wasn't a button that you hit for the carriage return. It was like a lever that you put. It was so satisfying. You come to the end of the line and be like whack, and you'd hit it, and we would go back to the front. Oh yeah.
We took typing in school, and it was like a elective you could do.
Yeah.
And we used to just all we did was race each other typing stuff all day.
Yes.
So you could type a message. Yeah.
Yep. So. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So now we come to the beginning, not a new chapter because we don't have stars. But we were looking at those last time. We have the clear end of the thing. And also, although this is a big beginning of a word, which is very familiar, it's not all colored in. So this is Balin, right? And
this is an important line, right?
This is an important line. Look at that huge old capital letter. That's meant to be a capital letter for a person's name, and not just anybody's name. Balin. Wait, hang on a second. I saw that one. What's the one that looks like it's... Where did that one go?
Down a little
well, it looks
further.
like an upside down Y. There it is. H.
There it is.
H.
Uh-huh.
Is that consonantal H?
It's just H. It's orthographic H.
Orthographic H. Okay, gotcha. H-A has. Balin has set. Oh, I missed the dot in between the two S's. I thought it was a double S. And I'm like, H-A-S-S? No. Has set up his seat in the chamber. Whoa.
Yeah, chamber looks cool.
Okay, hang on a second. Okay. C-H-A-M.
Yep.
Schwa.
So don't look at that one was like a backwards B. Go back to my training thing here.
Oh, okay. Hang on a second. The backwards B. It was an MB. Of course.
Exactly.
Of course, it's the MB. Okay. Yeah. Of course they're going to have an MB.
The forward B is an M.
The forward B is an M. Right. Yeah, and of course I was expecting an M, and I saw the B, and said, okay, right. When it's backwards, it's MB. C-H-A-M-B-E-R. Makes so much more sense. Schwa-R. Yeah. Chamber of,
and then just a
just
then
a
just a
v,
V.
just a V of,
And then there's the forward B.
there's the forward
and
B.
you see it's stylized, make it look like a capital.
Aha! So this, the Chamber of Maz, M-A-Z, and that's a capital M. You can see by the big fancy tails at top and bottom. What? This is just a smudge, I guess, between the M and the A up on the top right there.
Right? Yeah. It's just
Probably just a
blood
smudge. Yeah.
Somebody had a nosebleed or something.
Well, I mean, I'm sure whoever left that blood stain had more than a nosebleed, but okay. All right. Okay. The Chamber of Maz. We're approaching the second hole. Mazarbul. We just squeaked it in. It's the L of Mazarbul that teeters right at the brink of the hole. So there's a very good reason why Gandalf stops reading there. Balin has set up his seat in the Chamber of Mazarbul, Gandalf says, and then Gimli pipes in with his translation, the Chamber of Records.
The Chamber of Records.
The Chamber of Records, yes. Yes.
That must be where we stand.
Yes, agreed. And Bob, I totally agree with you, by the way. So Bob says he still likes the theory we had 2 weeks ago that the text is actually written in Khuzdul and that Gandalf didn't know the word Mazarbul. He read it aloud and then Gimli translates it. The Chamber of Records.
Okay. Yeah. So he sees Mazarbul and he's like, Chamber of Mazarbul.
He just reads it out in Khuzdul because he doesn't know. Yeah.
Gimli goes, that's of records.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. Because, so we don't really know. I mean, the fact that it's in English in the illustration implies by parallelism that it's in Westron. But that it doesn't prove it, right? It just proves that Tolkien wanted us to decode it. Is what it proves. So, yes. Yeah.
And you have to imagine all this was in Westron except Mazarbul wasn't.
Mazarbul, yeah. Okay. So now we've got maybe 3 words. That big blob on the upper right-hand side of the hole might be word 4, yeah.
Start right after that. And it's not real easy, but I do know what this says too.
Okay. That looks like a K, or it could be like a G, or it could be an IS.
It's tough. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're going to be able to get it without me just telling you.
I think. Hang on. Let's see. And then that looks like like one of those diphthongs that looks like an M, like an OU maybe, like a capital M in English. Maybe not. Yeah.
It's a little tough.
It is a little tough. How many letters do we have here?
So that first one, so the farthest to the left, that's right after the blob.
Yeah.
That's a G. That's
it is
the
a
one
G.
that looks like a K.
Okay, it is a G. Okay.
And then there's an A.
And that's an A. Okay. G-A.
And then there's a D-H. Yeah, I'm not sure why I can't see. I'm not sure why this doesn't look as good as the one I have, because I thought this was the one that I had that I gave you here. But so that actually says,
gathered.
That says gathered. Right.
G-A-V.
As a matter of fact,
G-A,
we gathered.
And then what? R-schwa-D?
So you can even go, yes, exactly, R-schwa-D, gathered. Right. And in the one that I have, I can actually see a we in the blob to the left.
Oh, over here?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, so
we gathered.
We gathered. Okay. Wow.
And then also you can't really see it on this either, but I can also see lots of to the right of it.
We gathered lots of.
And then that's the end of that line. And see, I can't even see it on that one there. I can't even see it in that pic there. So then roll down to the next line, and
Right. So roll down to the next line. We've got...
we gathered lots of, and I know you can read this.
We absolutely can. This is a G... Gold!
Right.
Lots of gold!
We gathered lots of gold, and I can't really make out the other stuff past that on the one that I have either, the
Right.
scan.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the beginning of the great work. He says he can see the word gold. Right.
Exactly. So yeah. So you can see how it's supposed to be difficult to read, right?
Yeah. Though Gandalf's a little bit misleading here when he says he can read no more for a long way. It's like one line, half a line.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. He says I can read no more for a long way, but I do see gold.
Oh, I see. Right. So like in the stretch that I can't read, but still the long way is talking about at maximum. I mean,
2 lines, right?
It's 3 lines. Yeah. This 3 lines, some of which you can make out fairly clearly, but that's okay.
You can see a couple of things, right? Yeah, you can see a couple things in it.
Yeah. All right. So he mentions gold. Also, we're coming to Durin's axe. I'm so excited. Okay. We gathered lots of gold.
Mm-hmm.
So by the way,
then I can't really make out anything after that on that line or the entire next line. I mean, It looks like there's another H there pretty close to the hole on the right.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough to even make out what anything says.
Yeah, agreed. But this suggests, thinking of your carriage return there, I think we did a carriage return. I mean, again, it's not literally. We know that we're speaking metaphorically. But in any case, I think they started on a new line because I think a significant amount of time had passed.
How do you say carriage return in Kustu?
Yeah, exactly. now there's a question. Why Tolkien might have thought about that, given how much he used. It's a spiritual carriage return, JJ says.
Right.
But in any case, point is, so I was arguing that Gandalf could read the word shaft because it starts in again with another bolt, like that's the beginning. Like a time had passed, and that's like somebody writing with a fresh pen several weeks later, just to note like shaft is clear, all is well, everything's fine. So
shaft is not real hard to read. That part's actually pretty easy to read.
Exactly, and again,
clear is tough.
Right. Well, but clear is smeared. That's it's still nice and bold. I mean, again, look, it's anyway. Yeah. So my theory is that we had the settling in the 21st Hall, and they were worried about things. They're like, how can we breathe? But then, security, and we've got to be watching out for things, but can be okay because we can do that conveniently. And then a note later on, shaft is clear. Like everything's fine. Everything's going well. And then they didn't write for a while because they were busy. They're doing stuff. Right. Mm-hmm. And so when they come back, they start on a new line. Right. And because, of course, they've got an important thing to say, they're not just camping anymore. Right. Balin has set up his seat in the Chamber of Records. Some time has passed. To set up his seat, when you're setting up that's a third stage. Right. Stage 1 is your camp. Stage 3 is Balin is now Lord of Moria. Right. Stage 2 in the middle there is when you're no longer camping, but he's not yet, they're not yet settled and he's not declared himself Lord of Moria, but they're now like a functioning society and not just an emergency camp anymore.
We got a breather here is what we're saying. We got
right.
It's in this middle section. Okay. We're not completely concerned about getting attacked anymore.
Because if you're just on the defensive all the time and still worried any given day the orcs are coming back, you're probably not digging up gold, right? Like that's the toys of the dwarves. Come on now. Like it's not even dwarves. Even if these dwarves were particularly greedy, are likely to be saying, let's like risk our necks and our tenuous encampment in order to collect gold. Anyway, so here, once he sets up in the Chamber of Records, this is a not quite a whole new chapter, but time has passed. That's why we're interested now in gathering lots of gold.
And there's more stuff there, but I can't really make out enough to say what
Right.
it says.
Exactly. I agree with Nancy. They've come to the prophet stage of the plan. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But, okay, and I agree that this,
Step one was collect underpants.
right. Step three is prophet. Yeah.
I have a feeling on that very first part, you would need new underpants.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, no, now things are easy. They're in the prophet stage. And the stuff that we're missing there is presumably of a similar kind, like of this, more peacetime activities, right? More settling in, more moving in to Moria than occupying originally. But okay, so when we get down here to the line that runs along the bottom of the hole,
Yeah.
and you can't read this blur to the right of the hole?
I can.
Oh yeah, because
it
looks like it starts with an H.
Yeah, I think you're going to be able to read it.
All right.
But so start not on Durin's, but start at a couple words before that.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the line above that.
Oh, the line above it. Oh no,
Like
no, I can't read it.
the little blur to the right.
I see what you say is an H, and that's probably an H or an O.
Yeah, an
One
H or an O.
of the
Yeah,
two,
it could be an O. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that could
Sometimes,
be.
sometimes those O's they look like they look like they kind of
they kind of come together and get all swoopy like the top ones. Yeah.
And there's sometimes at the H doesn't have the stem long enough at the top, so yeah.
This actually could be a double O, right there.
It could be, but I also think that the left-hand side is too vertical to.
Right, so that might
possible.
be a P.
It's possible.
P-O, potentially.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
Anyway.
I just wonder. Okay, all right. So we'll start down. We'll start down here.
Yeah.
We'll start down here.
I was going to get you. So right here, you can see a couple things, but then you can see an R at the end of that word. You can't really tell what that says. That's probably an I right there. You can't really tell what that next part says. But right there, that's an R, right above the other Balin. You see the
right. We've
the
got.
Balin that looks like it's written with an ink pen.
Oh yeah. No, this one we can say. I'm looking at the second line up from Balin first. Can we get any of this blurred stuff at the beginning?
So what I'm talking about is there's another Balin up on the next line down.
Oh.
But it looks like it's written with an ink pen. It's like it's written with a ballpoint pen. Not that one.
Oh, this one. Yeah. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Balin.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So you got the Balin down there.
Above that, above the A of that,
you
can see it. You can see there's a W there.
W-O.
Start there and see if you can figure it out. Exactly.
Right. Okay. So we got W-O-N-D.
Yes, you're getting it. There you go.
W-O-N-D,
Schwa, yeah.
Wonder. Wonder. Okay.
And then that's not the end of the word. There's more to it.
Wonder. Is that that looks like it goes that way, so it goes left, so it's an F?
That's an F.
Wonderful.
Right, and that's all I can really read, but it says wonderful.
Wonderful.
It has to be.
Has to be wonderful. Oh, that's phenomenal. Wonderful. And this is right before
the word
Durin's axe.
Yeah. So right before the D, you can see on mine I can see there's an AI.
Right.
So that has to be lay. That has to be wonderful. Lay Durin's axe.
Huh.
Because the L is kind of hard to make out even on mine, but you can see the bottom and a little tiny bit of the crossbar. Yeah, like AIAY, like lay.
Okay.
And AI and AY are both listed as the same thing on the Cirth chart there.
Lay Durin's axe makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful lay Durin's axe. So I don't know what's going on around that.
No, me
but
neither.
It looks to me like it says wonderful lay Durin's axe.
Huh.
And that's not all. There's more after Durin's axe. And I remember you saying on the show that you there's something else. I forgot what Gandalf says there.
And something helm.
Yes, exactly. That's right.
The something
That's
helm. Yeah. Is this, hang on a second. So there's helm right there.
Mm-hmm.
So the word before helm is in fact easy to read. It's a backwards B, which is an MB. MB schwa R. Ember. Ember.
Okay.
Ember helm.
So what I want you to look at there is look at that MB and imagine if that MB, if you accidentally put the bottom, if you didn't mean to, but you accidentally closed that bottom
But
off.
you meant to be a V
Mm-hmm.
instead? Okay, because if you didn't close it, it would be a V. So then it would be Ver helm.
Right. Now go to the other end and you'll see what it says.
Okay, because that looks like SIL.
It sure is.
So it could potentially be, right as Bob says, Silber
That's exactly.
helm. Yeah.
Right. That's what I wrote on mine.
Yeah.
Silber. Durin's axe and his Silber helm.
And his Silber helm.
Mm-hmm. So who messed it up? Was it Tolkien? Was it whoever was writing it? It's that same little game we play, you know.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be silver. It's supposed to be silver. Yeah.
Nancy suggests it's Moria Silber. It could
Moria
be true
Silber.
Silber for all we
True
know.
silver, exactly. Right. True meal.
Yeah. Okay.
Silver steel.
Silber steel, exactly. Right, so that does look like a typo.
A Rido.
A Rido, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Like, who did it?
Yeah.
Every time I see one of these, I think, who was supposed to have made this mistake?
Yeah.
You know.
And first of all, can I just point out that this, for all you writers out there, is one of the gifts that keeps on giving when you make a metatextual frame like this, because then anytime you make anyone finds a mistake that you made, you just play this game and you're like, but where did the text enter? Like where did the mistake enter the text? Right? Yeah.
Here's another thing I would add for everybody who doesn't already know how to write Tengwar. Not a whole lot of people know how to do the Kirith stuff, but Tengwar is very similar. One thing I want to add is it is very possible, I would even say probable, that some of these things that aren't spelled right were literal mistakes made by JRR while he was doing it, because, as everyone who does know how to do Tengwar will tell you, you continuously do things like this by accident, even when you're really good. It's kind of like forgetting to cross your T when you're writing in English. One of the last things that you get good at, and I say this all the time, I said it at TextMate the other day, one of the last things you get good at is remembering to close bows remembering not to close bows on a Tengwar. And this right here is the equivalent of accidentally closing a bow when you didn't mean to.
Right. Yes. And remember the closed bows and open bows, he's talking about like the difference between the T and the P here. The T is an open bow and the P is a closed bow. And that is like, so you do the stem, you do the bow, and then you close it. It's not you could loop it, like a cursive sort of loop to make it continuous, but it is a separate motion. Yeah.
If you were going to write Bornholdt, if you were going to write my last name, and you forget to close the bow on the B, you wrote Dornholdt.
Right, with a D. Yeah.
It happens. People do it all the time. And when you show somebody, you're like, and everybody, as soon as you show them, they're like, oh man, I can't believe I did that. And I'm like, I can. Everyone does it.
Right. And yes,
including J.R.R.
Tolkien. We can see lots of examples. And of course, the other thing that I would point out is that this has got to be especially difficult for him, given that he was still tweaking these things at various points. And so there may be times where he has included something that is an error, which may not have been an error at the time or whatever.
Mark said it could be wonderful day. That's good. I like that.
Ooh,
wonderful day.
That would make much more sense syntactically. That would make much more sense.
Wonderful day during Zax, yeah.
Wonderful day.
That's good.
Yeah.
See, it's kind of blobby. You can't really tell what it says. But let's get back to what we were saying right before I saw that and interrupted everything.
Yeah.
The messing up the Tengwar like that, it happens all the time.
Yes.
And it starts to get where it annoys you that you're still doing it.
Right. Right.
And so it's really neat to see this. And Tolkien, the other thing I was going to say is like the fact that we all have each other to talk to about it to get better. When you, Corey, mess up something in Tengwar,
right,
I'm there to say, hey, you messed that up.
Right.
And you go, oh man, I did. Tolkien was alone doing this. He had to find his own errors. There was no one there to say.
Which is, as we all know, easy to do. When you know what you meant to write, it's exactly. And goodness knows the Alan and Unwin people weren't going to be correcting this, proofreading that.
Exactly. The only people he could have gotten to do have been the Inkling guys. They're like, hey, can y'all look at this and proofread this made up script that I got?
Right.
Like, get out of here.
Right, exactly. Depends how many beers they'd had already, I think, by that time.
Exactly.
But
so this next line right here adds to what you just saw. So let's say wonderful day.
Well, I like that. I like that reading a lot.
Yeah,
and so
that's better than lay. Yeah.
So that would say, okay. So I'm going to.
So the next line. So I see people saying it's getting late because it's 11 now, but or it's 11 my time.
Yes, it is. So how time flies! But we just got to do
this next line.
Yeah, we'll get the next
line
okay.
in.
All right. Okay.
Because that next line you can stop at the stars.
Right. Wonderful day. Durin's axe and Silver helm.
His silver helm. Yeah.
Balin, now we get to find out what happened with the Silver Helm, because Gandalf got nothing between something helm. And of course, by the way, notice also how Tolkien has retroactively made this an inside joke, perhaps inadvertently. But the word that Gandalf says is something, because he can't read it, is actually misspelled. Come on,
right.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool.
Right. It might be a mistake.
I actually meant to bring that up. I forgot.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Okay.
No wonder he can't read it.
No wonder he can't read it. It's misspelled.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay. All right. Anyway. All right. So, something helm. Then Balin is now Lord of Moria. No, Gandalf. There's something before that. There's a whole line. Most of a whole line before that. Okay. Balin.
Yeah. Zoom in so you can see that better.
Okay. Balin. Is that an H?
Uh-huh.
Balin has.
Yes.
Exactly. As a Z right there. Balin has.
Well, that time it says it's an S.
Like it's an S. Has. Balin has.
It should have been a Z. But yes.
Z. Okay. Yeah. He has. Is that an R?
That's a T.
It's a T. That's my next guess. There's stuff over on the left-hand side, but
right. Yeah.
Balin has taken.
Yes.
Balin has taken. Oh, that's a voiced frick. If it's fricative because it goes that way, it's voiced because it's got two bars, so it's a V.
That's
no.
DH.
DH. Right.
Yes.
Now it's the again. Right. Okay.
Exactly.
Has taken the M.
Yep.
M. Okay. Has taken the.
Yep. So wonderful day. Durin's axe and his silver helm. Balin has taken them.
Taken them. Okay, of course. I thought the was the end. Taken them. He's taken them. Oh, this is going to be good. This is such an important word. Looks like it's left hand facing an F?
Right. Yep.
has taken them for
Yep.
his own.
Exactly.
Yes.
You
Has
got it.
taken them for his own. Oh, that's
So-
awesome.
Wonderful day, Durin's axe and his somber helm. Balin has taken them for his own.
For his own.
And then the next line is the one that everyone is going to recognize.
With the
That
fancy colored capitals and everything, Balin is now Lord of Moria.
Right, exactly. And that's it. And then if you look at the book, then it says,
That seems to end a chapter.
That seems to end a chapter.
Not
exactly.
only do we have the stars underneath, but we have the squiggles at the end of the line, like the second line on a check.
It actually says after some stars, another hand begins.
Yes, after some stars, and so the stars I think are the ones between the lines, but then we've got the extra wiggles. Boy, there's some excitement right there. Like this is clearly.
Yeah.
Another hand begins. Unfortunately, that's not a compliment because this is not a good hand. This is like the worst hand on the page.
Here's something else that's pretty neat, and I know it's time to stop, but
Yeah, we'll stop.
If you look at that next line, you can see there's an ink line right there. You're on it right now.
Yes.
No, to the right. You see that ink line.
Yes.
Right there. That's supposed to be a cut. Where
Right.
that line,
This is a cut in
it's
the page.
cut in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so he drew that like he was going to cut it some more, but he actually didn't do it.
Okay. Right.
Or maybe it was cut and just laid back in place,
But we do have our first underline word.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. I'm not going to read it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to read it. We're going to save it for next week.
You've already figured out the most important part of it.
Yeah. And I also think that oh, never mind. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure I know what word it is. Okay.
Right. Yep, exactly. Yeah.
That's okay. We'll save that for next time. So yeah, so we have this last bit here before Ori's hand begins, and then we will finally move to the Tengwar page. Okay.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, so this next little bit may not be Ori, but the
No.
next page definitely is.
Yeah,
This
the
little
next
bit
page
right
is
here,
the next page is
that
Ori.
may not be Ori, but the next part.
Yeah, the
definitely is.
Tengwar part is this.
Yeah.
This part is definitely
That one's definitely Ori.
Yeah.
So Ori's got some really good handwriting. That blows my handwriting away.
Yeah, no, this is phenomenal. And by the way, I just love the fact. Anybody who has spent any time looking at Tolkien's fancy handwriting on his illustrations and things like on his paintings and things like that, you can absolutely tell that this is Tolkien's handwriting, despite the fact that it's in Tengwar and on a bedraggled page. This is recognizably his hand, which I think is really amazing.
And I always say I wish he'd write everything in Tengwar because I can read that.
Yes.
When he writes in our normal Latin alphabet, when he's writing English in normal Latin alphabet, it's hard to read. But if he writes it in Tengwar, he's really careful to make sure.
Yeah.
He wants people to be able to read.
He wants
it.
people to be able to figure out the Tengwar. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, very cool. All right, well, so we'll look at we've got the mithril stuff and the upper armories and all that sort of thing for next time. But we are super late. I literally did not even notice that we were already 15 minutes late when you pointed that out. But we had to get to Balin is now Lord of Moria after he did fulfill our theory that he was in fact claiming the helm. So that there is a direct, even causal link between Balin taking Durin's axe and helm and naming himself Lord of Moria. Seems explicit here, which is really good.
We actually got a lot further than I thought we were going to.
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, I only had to look up about one out of every 5 to 10
moving
today, so we're moving much faster.
You're moving. You actually have gotten it down pretty good already.
You get used to
I hope
it.
everybody else watching is getting it down like
Yeah,
that
well,
too,
again,
so.
it's when I'm so appreciative of this chart because again, like once you get Tolkien's system, it makes it easier.
Isn't that way better than the one that he made?
So much better.
Go to the Chad's notes tab. I think it's the B. See
Right.
the tab at the bottom says B. I think on it.
Yeah.
Is that the right one? No, that's not it. Go to let me see if I can figure out which one it is for you.
The Angerthas app E.
Yeah, it's yes, that's it. That's actually how he laid it out.
Yeah.
That's way harder to read,
Yeah.
They're all in the same order. It's just instead of laying them out side by side like you did with the Tengwar, it makes it a lot harder to read that way.
Yeah.
So.
You can still see the overall pattern with like the between the unvoiced and the voiced but yeah.
But if you're trying to learn this on your own and you just go to App E, it's going to look like this. But I color coded it,
Right?
Just so people who are trying to, because it looks just like this, but also it doesn't have what it is next to it. There's two of them. There's one with just the Cirth, and then one with just the Latin stuff.
Yeah.
Someone is asking where they can find mine. If you go to texastolkien.com, you can find a whole bunch of stuff I did. So if you look at his in the back of App E, you see like just those Cirth, and then beside it you see just the letters, and then the letters will actually say this or this, but then you actually have to read the narrative part of the appendix and see. What is he talking about? Because he's saying they changed this to this whenever they, and so what I did is getting, after already creating that really good way of learning Tengwar using Matt's method, I then lined this out in the same manner.
Yeah.
And figured out exactly what he was talking about. And very, very quickly, you see the patterns develop in the same way with the Cirth as you see the patterns develop as with the Tengwar. And as soon as I did that, I was like, oh, I see what he's got going on.
No, this is really cool. That's really cool.
So, and like I said, anybody who's trying to learn how to do this, the best thing to do is to practice with someone because you get crazy good when you start practicing with someone. You write back and forth to someone all the time, and then you correct their problems, they correct your problems, you get good really, really fast. That's how Matt and I got so good so fast.
Yeah, and like I said, with both Tengwar and with the Cirth so far, what I have loved about it is that it's not just like a code where you have to memorize letter for letter. Because you see the patterns. Like if it's got a single thing sticking off to the right, it's a voice. It's an unvoiced plosive. If it's got a double thing sticking off to the right, it's a voiced plosive. It's sticking off to the left, it's freaking. So I can always. I mean, I don't always guess right. Like when I was getting, like when I was mistaken DH for F,
thing,
right? But that's just because, like, I mean, I knew it was a fricative, right? I was wrong within the same zone, like that's what I find so easy about, so much easier about learning these things.
The thing is, it's not a 1-to-1. It's not just like a decoder ring. It's not like a
exactly.
It's not a drink more Ovaltine thing. It's like it actually is sounds. Every one of them are supposed to be a sound. So even though we put that's a P, it's not a P. It's P.
It's P. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Right. Trifle is correct that it does help more if you know off the top of your head what the fricatives are. Very true. Yeah. But at the same time, I have learned what the plosives and fricatives are. It's like it's been reciprocal, right? I've learned more about the different phonetic structures of I've learned more linguistics from learning these things from Tolkien's charts than ever before.
You don't already have to be good at it, but you will get pretty good at the phonetics just from learning this.
Yeah.
And you don't have to learn all the phonetics. You just learn the ones that are in these charts, and then things start making a lot of sense.
Yes.
Whenever you start doing that.
Yes. Even if you just think about, you don't have to memorize the vocabulary even. Like, you don't have to know that it's a palatal fricative or whatever. You can just, you can begin to feel it because it makes you aware of where it is in your mouth, right? I mean, you don't have to be told about like labial plosives to know that p and b are very similar and are in a totally different part of your mouth than t and d, or than ch and sh. But at the same time, you can easily tell that ch and sh are in the same part of your mouth, right? And so that the two of those things, the ch, which is this one in the Cirth, and the sh, which is exactly the same thing backwards, like it makes perfect sense, intuitive sense, that they should look almost exactly alike because they're almost the same sound, just aspirated differently.
And the below the ch, you've got j, which
the
is
voiced version,
same exact thing with your voice in it, and then below the sh, you've got j, which is the voiced version of sh. So
exactly. I think I would be tempted, Chad, if I were to take a crack at teaching this, just like trying to teach a room full of people to do this. I think I would be tempted not even to use the words, like not to use the word like palatal, velar, or fricative, or any of that stuff. And I mean, I might say it, but not even just like, because you don't have to know that. Like, you don't have to remember. It helps me because I'm familiar enough with those, with those phonetic concepts for me to help me remember. But I don't think that 5 years ago I would have passed a test on like, is this a fricative or not a fricative? I mean, I have gotten better at that by using these tables. Anyway,
and
all right.
When we're doing this, we say it and we pass right on, and then you know that like a couple of years later, somebody's like a light bulb goes off, and they're like, oh, that's why they said dental, because you're actually using your teeth.
Exactly.
So anyway, I'll let y'all go, and y'all can.
Awesome. Okay, we're actually going to stop. Thank you so much, Chad. I will see you again next week.
Namaste.
All right. And in the meantime, we will shift back to probably a brief field trip on account of it's enormously late. Okay, let's see. Oh, man, I forgot even to log into the game the first time tonight. I had so many windows open.
Yeah, same.
How are you this evening, Valori?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here. I'm hoping my voice doesn't give out too soon with the pollen, but that's just this time of year.
Yes,
so
it is allergy time.
Oh boy, it is. So like interesting thing about the silver being done with a B, because my first thought is like that's how you write it in Irish Gaelic.
Right.
You do BH.
Right.
For that, but then I'm sitting there thinking, have we had instances of V already in the text?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Like in the of, So like no, there are definitely lots of the of, which is just the R, the one that looks like a backwards R, right? Yeah. So no, there were several examples of that, but I mean, again, like the fact that, you're clearly not off, right? Like the fact that the BH is used to indicate the V in Irish is it makes sense. Like this is why in the Cirth there is only that one stroke difference, right, between the V and the MB, and why the B itself is also very similar. Remember, the B is the forwards R. So the B and the V are exactly the same strokes, just pointing in the opposite direction. So he has clearly gone out of his way in the Cirth, as in the Tengwar, to associate all of those sounds together. And in the Cirth, unlike in the Tengwar, he not only associates the sound V with the sound B, but he also associates the sound like he makes it really close to the actual what looks like a letter B, in the English alphabet. So there's lots of like kind of combination and play there together. Yeah, Vardendils asks if the Irish BH is historically bilabial. I know nothing about it. I am still in the I still look on Irish in awe and dismay. I have nothing but respect for people who understand Irish at all.
Yeah, I actually got an improv stand-up bit where I actually explain how Irish spelling is just a prank on the Irish.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, shh, don't laugh, he's coming. Shh.
Okay.
So you know how you spell Patrick, Patrick? Well, we're gonna spell it ALGPOL26.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
But
I missed you. You took off with that.
oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I just headed straight
That's
to the
all right.
21st hall.
Okay. We'll just head there then.
All right.
But don't take off.
I won't take off. I got quests to decline here. All right.
Oh, yeah, Vardendil also mentions that it's V Demotic. Beta is pronounced with a V in Demotic Greek. And yeah, similar to how in Spanish you would sometimes pronounce a... I think it is B and V.
May Durin return soon to his halls.
Yeah, back to the Eastern
Like
Crossroads, I think.
Yep. All right, Eastern Crossroads. So just phonically, it sounds similar.
All right.
Why can I not see it right now?
Okay, here we are, Eastern Crossroads.
Oh boy.
All right. So in order to get somewhere before the end of class, let us go back to our processional way. Now that we are fully experts on the Great Hall of Durin and instinctively know our way everywhere. And we'll never get lost here again because now we have narrative for all of the twists and turns. Okay, so we go, this is the triumphal entrance, ticker tape approach, horns resonating. Here's the acoustical hall. Hang on, did we miss a right-hand turn? No, there's not one up here, right? No, there's not. Okay. So this is the acoustical hall. So this is the hall that separates the Great Hall of Durin from... This is like the final approach. The acoustical hall here is the final approach. And so here is our first actual intersection, our first actual cross street coming from that direction. So let us head up to the north here and see what we see. Huh. I know we've seen that pattern in the wall. I know we've seen the pattern individually, but I don't remember seeing a strip of them like that before.
Yeah,
On a
I
wall.
don't... I'm not sure. Oh, look how it's fading from one to the other, too.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, trippy.
Yeah. I think we've seen it as, like, cross beams.
Yeah, maybe. Or like sigils on bridges and that kind of thing. Bridge sigils. That's a kind of a fun phrase to say, actually. Okay, but they are... All right, so what's fascinating to me, apart from the really trippy edges of those, is the fact that they're set on natural rock. So you have...
Reinforcement?
Well, maybe... Well, it's possible. And the floor is intermittent. But what floor
look
there
at the
is
ceiling. That's where we've seen it.
is floor nouveau. Oh, yeah. The ones in the middle.
Yeah.
of the Fleur
Yeah,
Nouveau.
that's right. That's right. We've only seen them as bronze and not with this high contrast either.
Yes. I knew I'd seen that thing before. And that's where
Yeah.
we've seen it, in that ceiling.
I'm like, boy, I'm tired of
That ceiling, which is a sort of inexact, looking up at the derriere of my bore, of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Except the floor does not have that like octagonal, that 8-pointed star thing in it.
Yeah, but you don't have to worry about wagons rolling over it now.
Right. Right.
Oh, that's another one, an expansion joint cover for if the stone shrinks or expands during hot or
Possibly.
cold spells.
Possibly.
Yeah, you can see this. There's a rock slide here, or it's a depression. I think it's like some of it shifted over here.
Now, this is one long, it says wide as the main way out there, and it has had no side passages yet. Here's the first one. So here's the first turning of the ways once we get out here.
It's amazing they don't need any signages for anything.
Does the right-hand side, does this straight way, does this go up towards, will this connect up to Durin's Hall again?
I don't know. Let's see.
This is part of that long hallway, which is, no, it is like the northern edge of Durin's Hall, but it's not the same. Kind of goes around, no, those are just little alcoves, little, okay, stairs to a door.
It looks like probably an apartment block.
Possibly. Could just be residentials.
Yeah, there's a lot of staircases, and each one has some of those big lights in front of it, so you can get in. You can have enough light to use your keys.
And, what is up here? What are we overlooking? The way? We can't be. We haven't gone that far back. What are we looking down on? We're looking down on the side hallway we were just in.
Oh,
with
yeah.
the alcove, and there's the stairs and the door right there.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
because I thought these purple lamps were up really high, but it
Yeah,
makes more
they're
sense
up high because they're on the overlook floor.
doing double time.
Okay, so we've got multiple levels here.
Okay. Oh, did you jump down or
I didn't.
turn around?
I almost fell, but I pivoted adroitly at the last second. Okay, and we do, right as JJ was pointing out, we've got a reflector down here. So there was lighting that came through here.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a little bridge over that hallway.
Oh, we're all getting split up.
Okay, right. All right, so yeah, I'm on a bridge over that northern hallway here.
It's like it's dark in here or something. Whoa, what a mess.
Okay. And then, let's see, now we're so far away from it.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Whew.
Lots of
And I thought the big hall was
statuary,
amazing. Yeah.
lots of overlooks where I was not expecting overlooks. And here's another bridge.
I'd call that neighborhood safety measures.
Yeah, so I mean, this overlooks that lower. So we've got basically 2 levels of what I can now increasingly easily believe is a neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm
Like-
starting to get National Convention Center vibes.
Right. Like this could be a door. I mean, like this apparently blank wall. Remember, there are lots of places where we're assuming many dwarf doors are not made
Oh,
to
yeah,
be
also
seen
keep
when
in
they're
mind
shut.
the diamond patterns don't match from one to the other. I wonder if it's like a numbering system
Possibly.
on the wall here.
This is all Fleur Nouveau too, unlike main Durin's Hall.
But also, the floor doesn't help you. It doesn't give you any straight lines or
No.
angles to follow.
No,
So if you
it's,
lost, you're really lost in here.
it's very ornate and complicated. Yeah, okay, so we've got 2 levels, and yes, JJ, I think that's right. The bridgeways help you to, if you're on the 2nd floor going to another 2nd floor apartment, you don't have to come down into the heavier traffic areas as you suggested. Okay, so this will just lead, and here's another mirror set up here, so we were bouncing some more lights around down here.
So it wasn't supposed to be this dark.
Right. And this is going to be that same hallway. We turned aside and went upstairs to the north. But this is that same
this
hallway
hand
down here.
has those diamond patterns as well. I don't think I've seen a pattern on the hands before.
Oh. Yeah, I see what you mean. They're not the same diamond patterns, because this is clearly a square with 4 things sticking off of it, rather than a...
Yeah, it just was reminiscent of it.
Yeah. No, I agree, it is. And yeah, I also don't remember patterns like this on one of these hand statues.
Pretty much
Maybe that's
unadorned.
because we've always seen this side of them.
Yeah, or they're like up high on something, or
Right.
have glare.
Oh, hey, look.
Up.
Doesn't it almost look like it's not, I think? Doesn't it sort of look like that is a piece of the... it almost looks like the missing piece of that mirror hand that was broken off and is sitting over there. It's not, but it almost looks like it.
Because that one's missing the middle finger. No doubt the orcs thought it was funny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's just sitting here, so it's presumably a broken off piece of another one. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that the orcs, this is basically the orcs giving somebody the finger with the dwarf mirror. Like they broke it off and stood it up there to be flipping
like
the bird to everybody who walks down this hallway.
Yeah, they had to be disciplined after they kept laughing for an hour and a half without stopping.
Yeah, exactly. But JJ is also correct in pointing out that the pillar itself behind the rather childish orcish joke is made of a strange material like the mirror hands that we haven't seen before, and is also weird in that it's standing all by itself. This must have had a mirror on top of it.
Yeah, I think so. It would match up perfectly.
Yeah.
And this thing over here doesn't see, it's not on a plinth like it usually is, which is probably why we're getting such a good
So yeah, so that pillar must be the plinth upon which makes all kinds of sense. If you had a huge beam of light shining about 20 feet above the ground and people were walking beneath it, that would be pleasant. If the beam of light was down, at head level, less pleasant, surely.
Well, it's definitely, you can see it would be useful for the people on the 2nd story as well as the bottom story.
Right. Yeah, it's true. It would illuminate both.
We saw this when we were going over one of the walkways.
Yeah.
Romanesque arches over there.
Yeah. Now it continues. So I think then I'm ready to say we're seeing a neighborhood over here. This is, of course, an orc neighborhood currently. But this whole northern side would have been less a neighborhood than like a borough. Not a borough, like a New York borough, not a B-U-R-R-O-W. I mean, or like a neighborhood, again, in the New York City sense. Like a neighborhood in the sense that, like, Tribeca or the Village are neighborhoods in New York. Like a sector of the city.
Alphabet City.
Yeah. Because it's... The reason I say this is that we've been going up and down these long hallways, these long east-west hallways, which run parallel to the main road, and never connect down to it. And there are multiple levels there also, and there's lots of side streets. So like once you leave the path, and there are multiple entrances to it, from the main road. We just passed one. And I think that there was evidence of multiples in that way. So there are multiple ways in, and then once you're in here, there are cross streets, there are multiple levels. So I think that this is I think that this is somebody who was... Wow, that guy just spontaneously started attacking me? That's really weird.
Well, it's because someone else in the party attacked him, so he goes after anyone.
Oh,
who's
so he went
still in
after
the
somebody
party.
who's close. I see, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Somebody decapitated one of the Balrog heads from the statues over there and just put it on the top of the hill for some reason.
oh.
Yeah, like this. Yeah, like they just took the heads over here and then they put one on top of this pile of rubble. Looks like they're gonna play mini golf and try to shoot it in.
Oh, isn't that like a wolf mask? One of their wolf masks?
I think we saw it. I think we saw it. Yeah, on a Balrog effigy. But
I think the Balrog effigy was different. I remember the
Was it?
Balrog effigy.
yeah, this one does look more snout-like with the big nostrils and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, it's just weird that they just.
It
cut
is
it
fun
off and
with
just-
the slope. I agree.
Yeah.
It was making me
This
think
is-
of something. I think mini golf course is probably correct. Oh, hey, look! It's the axe hallway. Not only do I know this
boy.
connects back to the road, but I recognize which part of the road it connects back to. Ooh,
Yeah.
multi-level axe hallways.
They
We're getting
really
a
want you to be
split level
uncomfortable.
battle axe hallway here.
Split.
That's cool. Yeah, so this is down to the main road, yes.
Yep.
There's the main road, and we remembered when the main road cut through the down here to the Battle Axe Way, right? Here's the Battle Axe, the first Battle Axe gateway,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Well,
there's the bridge
oh,
over there.
I just thought of something. Maybe it's not as menacing as we think, because now that I think of it, it kind of looks like one of those military bridge of swords.
Yeah, and what if this tells us something about like these neighborhoods?
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, like the people here might be military or retired military.
Right, or something like that. I mean, this is clearly like the main ceremonial entrance into this borough or neighborhood or city, little suburb or whatever it is. Ooh, look at the visual effect on this little side hallway. Right? Beautiful how it recedes down into the distance, but unlike the main road, it has a dip, stairs down and stairs up.
You almost get the feeling that in front of the purple phosphorescent stones, the rock in front of it would be something like marble, something translucent that would
Yeah.
look almost like it glow.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So yeah, this is not only a neighborhood, but a fancy neighborhood. There's another stairway up to the second level. This is like the kind of the mezzanine level.
All the different color lights are suddenly making me think of the Mask of the Red Death, though.
Uh-oh, we're in the orange zone.
Uh-oh. The black room's next.
Right, and this again goes back to the main way, but again to a different portion of the main way. See there, we're now looking back on the Battle Axe. You can just see the Battle Axe region down there and the bridge on the other side, and this is going to lead us straight up to Acoustic Hall down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all of these crossroads that we were passing, at least on the north side, are all of them going into this sort of neighborhood zone. Emma Thorne, I also feel like I've never seen any of this in my life, though I'm sure I quested through here because I did at one point in my life a completionist Moria when I came through it really for the first time. Well, no, it was the second time. I think the first time was when I did it in one sitting, but I subsequently came back and did a completionist version of it with one of my other alts. And so I know I've been here because quests would certainly have taken me there. But of course I wasn't actually thinking about the layout like this. I was just trying to keep from getting lost and, memorize my own little breadcrumb trail back to the quest giver and that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like even if you think you've seen all of Moria, it's just so easy to get tunnel vision when you're concentrating on the end of a quest or a destination.
Yeah.
or looking out for enemies because you're woefully under leveled. Like
Right.
these are all things that would sort of focus your attention on not. And when you have that kind of tunnel vision, it doesn't occur to you to stop and look around.
Right.
But
Exactly. But
also, it's very easy to miss a part just by accident and never realize.
yeah, for sure. And it's so much fun to go through now and like conceptualize and understand, like to understand / invent a narrative for each of these sections. It's pretty cool. All right, we will. Whoop, there we go. My floating names, which I always keep turned off on Narnian so that I can actually see the landscape. So that was a quick tour of this northern section here. Next time we will look at the section which already we can see on the map is not a mirror section of it, not only because it's configured differently, but also because it then continues much further to the south and on to different places. So we will see how the southern section goes along as we when we return next time. All right. Massively, enormously late tonight. No help for it.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
thanks for everybody who persevered, and we'll see you guys next week.
Happy Easter and have a good Passover.
That's right. That's right. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.
Bye.